Henry, so will you please lead us in the pledge? Gary, we were better on it.
Ready? Begin.
United States of America, stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice.
Thank you much. That'll bring us down to the roll call. Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. President. Division 7, Gary Van Dam.
Here.
Division 6, Audrey Miller. Here. Division 5, Robert Harris is not present. Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
Division 1 is vacant. Division 3, Frank Donato. Here. Division 4, George Lane.
Yep, here.
Matthew Knutson.
Here on the phone.
Attorney Tilden Kim.
Here also via Zoom.
And Holly Hughes present. As we have one director on the line tonight, all votes will be in roll call. Because Keith is on the line, all the votes will be roll call tonight.
He's okay. Yeah, thank you. Move to item number 4, that's the public roll call. So anybody that is listening, in would like to identify themselves, which you like to hear from you. Now's the time.
Jack Cephas, White Fence Farms 3.
Welcome, Jack.
Thank you.
John Ducasted, AV Mutual Group.
And welcome, John.
Hey. Hi, George.
John Joyce, George, reporting for the Acton Aguadulce News.
Thank you, John. We appreciate
Stewart, RCSD.
Great, thank you.
Tim Leo, Montgomery and Associates.
Great. Okay, we'll move on. Item number 6, adoption of agenda. 6A1, adoption of agenda for May 9th. Need a motion?
George, this is Keith. Did we cover the public comments item 5?
Keith, thank you. Missed that one. We're going back to item number 5, public comments. If anybody would like to address the board or if you comment on any item that's not on the agenda, now's the time to do so. If it's on the agenda, you can talk about it a little later. Okay, item number 6, adoption of agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. This is Keith.
Okay, Director Dias, motion.
Director Miller.
Director Miller. If there's no further discussion, we'll have a roll call. Is that correct?
Yes.
Madam Secretary?
Yes, thank you. Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Parrott is not present. Keith Dias.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. That'll bring us down to item number 7. The consent calendar. We have one item, 7A1, approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 28th. And so I think we had a chance to review those. And if there's no questions, I guess that motion would be in order.
This is Director Donato. We'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Director Donato, in a motion. A second.
No.
Director Miller. Okay. Thank you much. Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. That'll bring us down to item number 8A, Finance Committee, and there's several items for discussion. And our chairman of the committee is Frank Donato, and I'll turn it over to Frank.
Okay. Finance Committee met last Thursday on one of these items. First item is 881, consider possible action to accept and file the check registry list, which is in your book, of April 13th, 2023 to April 26th. And our general manager is at a conference, so our assistant manager, Peter, is going to take over tonight.
All right, thank you. I walked through this with General Manager Knudsen, and the one thing that he wanted to point out was your items 1 and 2. You'll see that monthly charge from DWR. So we have the variable charge of 1.38 million and the ONPR charge. So those are the fixed costs of 1.567 million. And I just wanted to draw your attention to that large amount up there. And I and staff are happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the rest of the list.
We can't do much about it. We got to pay it.
Right. And we are moving a lot of water. So that's part of the reason why that variable charge is higher than typical.
And that represents the water for a recharge.
Correct.
Okay, there's several other items, and I think the board's had a chance to review those. And so if there's no further questions, the board order would be in order for 8A1.
Director Donato, I move on 8A1 to accept the check registry.
Motion by Director Donato, second by
Mr. Miller.
Director Miller. Okay. If there's no further questions or discussion, all in favor, roll call.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Keith, are you on, Keith?
Oh, yes.
thank you. Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried.
Okay, that brings us to item 8A2, consideration of possible action to accept the revenues and expense report for the third quarter of the fiscal year 22-23. Again, Peter will be stepping in to give us this overview.
Thank you, Director Donato. So, primary thing we want to draw attention to is down at the bottom. So you have 76% revenues and 73% expenses per our projected budget. We're 3/4 of the way through the year, so the target would be 75%. So we're tracking really well, and we're on the positive side. So 76% on the revenues, a little under on the expenses. We do anticipate the water sales to increase pretty dramatically over the next quarter. So we'll see some movement in terms of the water sale revenues, and then also the water purchases as we move into this next quarter. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions that you might have.
That's a good report. We're going to a snapshot of it. So.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion or questions?
I'll make a motion. We approve. This is Keith.
Director Dias. We need a second.
Yeah, this is Director Donato, seconded.
Director Donato, second. Okay, Madam Secretary.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Yeah, thank you. That brings us down to item number A3.
Yes, consideration of possible action on treatment chemical bids, liquid sodium hydroxide, I didn't pronounce it, okay, and zinc, and associated with the proposed fiscal year 2023-24 chemical budget and the amount of $1,800,000 And our operations manager, Tom Boziga, is going to give a report.
Thank you, Director Donato. Good evening, everyone. So annually, we send out a request for proposals for the 3 treatment chemicals that we typically use in our treatment plants. Aluminum sulfate for coagulation, zinc orthophosphate for corrosion control, and sodium hypochlorite for disinfection. On page 22 of your board agenda, there's a spreadsheet that shows what the bids came in at. Eco Services is our current alum supplier, and they were the low bid. They bid $498 per dry ton. This is a 10% decrease, if you can believe that, over what we're paying now. JCI Jones is our current supplier for sodium hypochlorite. They were also the low bid this year at $2.02 per gallon. This is a 17% price increase. And Thatcher Company previously supplied zinc orthophosphate to Avek. We've always had good service from them. They were the low bid this time at $108 per pound, which is $14.79 a gallon. It's a pretty expensive chemical. It's a 6% increase from what we're currently paying. What we did last year, the Finance Committee recommended that we talk to these suppliers and get them to agree to a 90-day price evaluation. And if there's a price increase, they need to show cause. They need to show why they're increasing the price. So all our suppliers did agree to that. So every 90 days we'll review. If they increase, we'll know why. Typically you don't see a decrease, but we can always be hopeful, but at least it keeps everybody on their toes. So staff would recommend support for awarding Eco Services in the amount of $755,964. JCI Jones, $379,760, and Thatcher Company, $306,277. The total comes out, we're also, I might remind the board, liquid oxygen and carbon dioxide are on a 5-year contract, and that we're currently paying about $295,000 a year for those 2 chemicals. So the total cost we're anticipating, based on about 38,000 to 42,000 acre feet sold this year of treated water, is $1.7 million, give or take. So we're asking support for a budget of $1,800,000 for those chemical costs.
Question. You made the comment was 90-day period. So if they come back and say prices are up, will that $100,000 cover, you think, that gap?
Yes, I think it will.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it will. And it's like a crystal ball. We think we're gonna use this much chemical, but depending on the water quality coming in, we could use less, we could use more. So what we do is when we figure this budget, we try to overfigure worst case scenario. So I don't think we'll need all of the 1.8 million, but at least it'll be approved if we do. I think we're actually going to come in under by year's end.
John, as far as having that review in 3 months, have we done that before?
We started doing it last year at the committee's request, and none of them were hesitant about doing it. I think that's probably a standard thing, so it's probably a good idea that we did it.
Did the suppliers ask for that?
No, the end user asked for it, and they agreed to do it. So we did see price increases last year.
The end user was
Avek. Yeah, the customer. We did see increases last year, but they did supply data where raw materials increased, where trucking expenses to get the chemicals here increased, and it was reasonable. The price increases were
Do you
justified.
think the 3 months versus the year? What is your opinion on that?
I think since this is a year contract, I think doing it every quarter is probably a good idea. It keeps them honest because they know that we're going to look at things.
But no. Well, I don't quite understand. They have the ability to raise it. Have they ever went down during the quarter?
I've never seen a price decrease. No,
Never seen a price increase?
I've never seen a decrease.
So
Yeah.
how does that help, how does this help us?
Well, I just think any time that you stipulate that they have to prove why there's an increase, they can't just arbitrarily increase it. Like in the past, some companies do that. They have to show us why they're increasing the price. And we don't have to accept it. We can go out because effectively they're breaking the contract. So we could go out to another vendor and see if we can get a better price. And they know that we can do that.
But why is this better than having it for a year?
Having an annual review?
Yeah.
Well, we do annually go out. Annually, we do go out for pricing. We don't award these chemicals for more than a 1 year period.
I know, but why is it better doing every 3 months versus 12 months? Having the ability to raise the price or lower it?
Oh, well, we can't. Oh, you mean hold them to you can't raise it for the whole contract period.
Yeah.
Well, because they would just break the contract. They would just say we can't supply it. They've done that before. We had that with 5 years ago with zinc orthophosphate.
Okay.
So they would just say we can't do it. I understand what you're saying now. Yeah. So
George, what you're saying is that 3 months. You want to go 1 year contract instead of a 3 month
Well,
contract?
I'm just trying to see the rationale, and I think what John probably explained it okay, but yeah, the rationale, 3 months versus 12 months.
Yeah.
And so it appears maybe there's so many variables, and they feel uncomfortable doing that.
yeah, they won't hold the price for a year. Nobody will do that.
But how come they did that 5 years on that other stuff?
The 5 years on the liquid oxygen, they don't hold that price. They can raise it.
Okay.
Yeah, they can raise
It's not locked in. Then what good is the 5 years?
Well, the 5 years is that liquid oxygen and carbon dioxide, they don't just bring that chemical. They bring the equipment to store that chemical because it's, you've seen those huge tanks out there, those vertical tanks. We can't purchase that equipment. That is rented for 5 years. So they, if we did a yearly contract, the price would be so high because they have to bring in all their equipment and it stays there for 5 years. So all agencies on liquid oxygen and carbon dioxide do lengthy contracts just to get that price
Are they the only
down.
ones with that equipment?
No, Praxair, Air Gas, Air Liquide, we put that out to bid and we take the lowest price. And that includes the rental price and the cost of the chemical.
Question, Mr. Bozzian. To me, it would make sense for the quarterly review only because of the conditions in the aqueduct may change, and you may have treatment changes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So do you see that often throughout the year?
We certainly see summertime, the water quality degrades where we use more chemical. But what the company is saying is we give them an estimate of how much chemical we're going to use for the whole year. And that's, again, it's based on how many acre feet we think we're going to treat. We go historically, how much chemical we use in the summer and so forth. So they're assuming a certain volume that they're going to supply to us.
Yeah, we're sort of coming out of a drought, so the conditions are going to be a little different.
They are going to be. That's why when we did this year, we knew we were going to get a good allocation. We didn't know it was going to be 100%, but we went back 4 years to when we were treating state project water as opposed to groundwater. Groundwater takes very little. Just sodium hypochlorite is all you use. Now that we're treating all this state project water, we're going to use a lot of alum and a lot of orthophosphate.
So you took that under consideration?
Oh yeah. Oh, we don't throw darts at it. We take what we know, and then we take worst case scenario based on historical use. Yeah.
Nicholas, your attorney, if you're listening in, can we use the 1.8 million, or do we need to specify each provider?
We can just use the 1.8.
Okay, so if there's no further questions or discussion, the motion would be in order.
I'll move on 8A3.
Director Miller? The motion from Director Miller?
Second.
Director Van Dam, we have a second? Okay, if there's no further discussion on that, all, okay, mixed up. Okay, Madam Secretary, get a roll call.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried. Yeah, thank you much.
Okay, now that brings us to item 8A4, an overview of the emergency repairs on the North Feeder operations. From, again, John Ozigan, Operations Manager.
Okay, thank you again. Holly, let's go back one. Do we have slide one there? Okay, well, we'll just go back to the previous slide and I'll give you a little background. This is an information only item. For 2 years, we've been talking about this leak we have on the North Feeder out in where it runs through Edwards Air Force Base. It was discovered in the summer of 2021. Obviously, we supply a lot of water to U.S. Borax, Edwards Air Force Base, the city of Boron. You can't just shut the feeder down to repair it in the middle of summer. So we hired WM Lyles on a time and materials basis to get all the materials they need and repair it in January of 2022, when we knew we could shut down. 10-day shutdown is all we could do. That's all our customers could live with. So WM Lyles went out, they potholed, which means they dig down, they measure the pipe, they know what size fittings they need to get, all the replacement pipe and so forth. So 2022, January comes around, they mobilize, they excavate, and they discover they got the wrong material. They got the wrong size materials. And so what we had them do was a temporary repair to get us through. So this first slide that you're looking at is after they excavated, that's the leak. It was determined the pipe was damaged on installation 40, 45 years ago, and the mortar on the inside had knocked off, so the pipe was corroding from the inside out. So next slide, Holly. So after we dewatered the pipe, you can see this longitudinal crack in the pipe. It was about 16, 18 inches long. And next slide. And after they chipped the mortar off and cut a coupon out, you can see the corrosion that was working underneath that mortar coating for years. It had been, corroding that pipe. Next slide. So what we had them do, we knew that, we only have 10 days. There's no way they're going to get the right materials in 10 days. So we have to patch this thing. So what they did is they made a curved patch plate. They welded it on. They remortared the outside and recompacted the area. And we scheduled the next shutdown for the following year. So we had to hope and pray during 2022 that patch held, because you only have a short window when these people can be without water. So now we'll fast forward to January 2023. Holly, next slide. So that is, just so you know, that pipeline is 33-inch diameter, kind of an oddball size. No pipe company is going to make one joint of 33-inch diameter pipe. So they use 36-inch diameter pipe, which is what you're seeing there. That arrived on site. Next slide. And then you have the welder pipe fitter cutting it to length. That's a 40-foot joint. Next slide. Well, they had 2 welders on the job. Again, we only had 10 days, so they had a lot of manpower on this to get it done in that short amount of time. So they're welding flanges on this joint to get ready to install it. Next slide. And now you see on the left, they've installed the new replacement joint. They've connected it to the existing line with flanges. And then on the right, what they did is we have very few valves in our system because we're a transmission system. So consequently, we have a leak. You have to dewater like 6 to 8 miles of pipe just to get to that leak spot. So we thought it'd be prudent to install a line valve, while they had it all apart. That's a 36-inch valve that was installed. They made a reducer fitting. And the problem with using a bigger pipe
connecting to smaller pipe is you can get air entrainment in the top of the pipe. So they kept the tops of the new pipe and the old pipes level. The bottom is where the larger diameter hangs down. And they also put provisions for air release valves, just in case that did happen. Next slide. That you see the valves installed, you see the provision for the air release valve, that 4-inch pipe that's sticking above ground. Keep in mind that pipe, that's existing pipe, has not seen the light of day since 1978, 1979. And go ahead to the next slide, Holly. So any exposed material that was not epoxy coated or mortar coated, they wrap in that thick visqueen for corrosion control as extra precautions. And next slide. That's the area that has been backfilled and compacted. And the next slide would show our finished grade. So you see finished grade, this is inside Edwards Air Force Base property. Since this picture was taken, our maintenance crew has built valve cans to cover those. They put air release valves on there. They put bollards around the area, even though there's no traffic, just for safety. So it's completely done. Next slide. Okay, so what were we up against? We had a 10-day outage. During that outage, we had to isolate 8-mile section of pipe. We had to drain an 8-mile section of pipe. They made the repair, put the new joint in. We had to fill the line. We had to disinfect the line. We had to flush the line. Then we had to do a 24-hour bacteriological test. And we got all that done with our staff and with help from the contractor in 10 days. They were back. Everybody was back in water. Next slide. Okay, so total charges for this time and materials, $145,484.45. Materials were $57,500. Labor and equipment was $89,000. And the concern, of course, with this whole project was Avek shouldn't pay for something twice. As far as we shouldn't have to excavate, backfill, and compact the area twice because they should have got it right the first time. So we went through very carefully all the bills, and we were not charged double for anything. They did not charge us extra for their mistake, let's say. Didn't charge us for the wrong materials they ordered. We went through very carefully, and so we're comfortable that this was a good price. $40,000 of this total price was Avek asking for a 36-inch valve to be installed too. So this is information, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on the repair.
Well, first I want to compliment you on staying with this project, micromanaging it basically through the whole process, so it wouldn't have to pay normally a lot more money. The second thing, I heard it was a badger trying to get some water.
Well, I'll tell you, we did create a nice environment for the animals out there for 2 years. They had lots of water. So anyway, credit also goes to Justin and his engineering department. They helped quite a bit with this project. So it was a team effort for sure.
You know, one more thing I want to say. What's interesting is the process, how I don't know who the directors were back in those days that approved the odd sized pipe. But the thing is that be able to taper that thing down to make it work and fit. I mean, it took incredible judgment.
Yeah, and WM Lyles, I will tell you, they have done a lot of our emergency work. They're a very big company, a very busy company. Anytime we've needed emergency work, they're always there to come and do it. And anyway, we were happy to get it done. And I don't like to be a pessimist, but it's hard to believe in 8 miles, actually way more than 8 miles of North feeder pipe, that's the only pipe that was damaged on installation. So in the future, we may have more of these. We hope we don't, but if we do, we'll take care of them. Yeah.
John, what's the PSI on that pipe?
At that area, it's probably about 130, 140 pounds, and it can surge up to probably about 170. So, and that's all gravity from the Mojave tank farm. So builds a lot of pressure.
Now, moving forward, what's your thoughts on maybe when we do a pipeline like that in the future, buying extra material and then storing some of that? Because when you run into these, we all know that, things break, they wear out, and we're not prepared for it.
Yeah, I think there is some logic to that. We have so many different size pipelines at Avek, 27-inch pipeline, 33-inch pipeline, and that's the engineers designed this for optimum flow. But yeah, when it comes to repair, it'd just be a question of what sizes do we stock and where do we keep it. But I think valves, flanges, those kind of things, Gary, probably be sensible to have on hand. Seems like they can always come up with a piece of pipe, even though it's not the right size, and they can make adapter fittings for it. Mm-hmm.
Was 27-inch, is that being used today in the industry?
Well, I think oddball size pipe is used if that's what is optimum for the application. So it's not like they made a mistake. I mean, they designed it for what it was for. It's just pipe manufacturers will make that odd size, like 24 inches standard, 30-inch, 36-inch. They'll make an oddball size if they're going to make 10 miles of pipe. They're just not going to make one or two joints of it because there's a huge process in making pipe. So, but there's always a workaround.
Maybe a lesson learned in the future if we shouldn't do an oddball, go up to the most common size.
And I think, with the SNP pipeline and other things that we've done recently, 48-inch pipeline, 36-inch pipeline, pretty standard. And I think moving forward, I think that's something we would look at too.
Yeah, I was a director at that time. I don't have a clue. We followed what the engineers specified.
Right. Well, we're not pointing fingers, George. We're not blaming anybody.
I don't know why his name
No.
Okay, so we need a board order?
No, this is information only. This is going to be on bills payable. All right, thank you.
Good report.
Good job, Ben.
Okay, that concludes my report.
Thank you much. That was a good report. And it wasn't quite a good report. I just water bank.
The next one, okay, B, High Desert Water Bank, Banking Committee, item 8B1, our monthly update on the High Desert Water Bank project, and our engineer Justin will give us an overview on that.
All right. Thank you, Director Donato. Good evening, President Lane, members of the board. Let's jump right into it. So this is the standard monthly report that we've given pretty much every month since the project started. See, clicker will work with me here. So we always start with section 1. This is our executive summary. Remind ourselves of our goals of the project. 70,000 acre feet of put and take capacity with direct punt back to the State Water Project, and a total storage capacity of 280,000 acre feet within the project boundary.
Might just mention, if anybody listening in has any comments, just jump in. That's fine. So just anybody on line.
Sounds good. Right-hand side, we've got a map of the project bounded by 300th Street West on the west, 280th Street West on the east, Avenue A, or the Kern County line, to the north, and the State Water Project serves as the southern boundary of the project site. You can see the lower area. We're going to talk a little bit about stage 1. This is what we call our stage 1 recharge area. So these are the berms that are being constructed and almost completed, actually, by the current contractor that's doing the grading work out there. And then this area to the north is we call our stage 2 area. Then you can see in blue the pipelines that serve those areas via gravity to recharge into those areas. The beige is our environmental set-aside, part of our CEQA process, our habitat management land. And then the stars, blue and yellow, indicate the wells that have been drilled to date. That's 10 in total. And then the small orange dots are maybe a little bit more difficult to see are the future wells that will be drilled out on the project site. On the left-hand side, you can see some short-term goals, things we hope to accomplish over the next 3 months. Completion of the aqueduct turnout structure is getting pretty close, so that should be completed here pretty soon. The contractor working on the grading and pipelines will continue their work through the next 3 months and beyond. And then, as we know, the Metropolitan Water District is working, their staff is working hard on a board letter and presentation to their board to get approval for the off-site power costs, which were not included in the original contracts. We just weren't sure what all the power costs were going to need to be there. And then the inflationary factor of the budget increases, so they're going to their board for approval of those funds coming up pretty soon. And we've been in contact with their staff and ensured that they're working very diligently to get that process moving forward. So we look forward to that. And of course, as that comes along, Avek's board will need to also execute that amendment with Metropolitan Water District to incorporate those as well.
How much is that change order?
The total budget now of the project is $210 million, and that includes the treatment component of the project, which was not originally authorized in their budget action. And then the fourth item on this list is a new one, very exciting item on this list, which is to begin recharge in the stage 1 area. Right now, we're on track to begin recharging in this stage 1 area, which is shown down here on the bottom. And the target date for the contractor to be ready for that is July 10th. So, that's coming up pretty quick. Metropolitan's very excited about it. So are we. So we're looking forward to meeting that milestone, and all indications are that we're going to be able to do that. So that's very exciting. It'll be very good to see some water going into the project.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
You discussed that Met is, regarding the money for the power. What's going on with the power? Have we started the power yet? Is we already starting?
Yeah, so we went through what they call a method of service review with Southern California Edison. So they did that process. So that's where they look at the load requirements that you're going to have on the project site, look at their existing facilities, and determine how they can serve our project's needs by extending their existing facilities. So they've identified the size of transmission line for the electrical that they need to bring to the project site. They've identified a preferred route to bring that power. And so the next step is they're really waiting on, Avek's waiting on Metropolitan to have this board action to authorize the cost to bring that power in. As soon as we have that authorization, we can issue the check to Southern California Edison to actually start the process of the final design and then the execution and construction of those facilities.
So we're waiting for Met to agree, and then comes back to the board, and then we go ahead and have a board order and then approve it. Was that how I was going to get it?
So the process, the way I understand it, is once Metropolitan agrees and we accept the amendment with them, which includes that offsite power cost, then we'll invoice Metropolitan for the costs of the electrical facilities, and then we'll just pay the payment to Southern California Edison to begin that process.
I understand that, but you're talking about one of the largest boards in the world. So how long is that going to take? Are we going to kind of, we're going to need it no matter what, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to start ahead of time and get this thing started? We have to wait for them to give us a check.
Yeah, we're waiting on them. So they're planning to go to their board in June. So in a few weeks, they'll go to their board is the current plan, and get that authorization.
Okay, I should retract my comment because we're going to put the water in the ground. We're not pumping water out, so we need the power.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yeah. The power won't be needed.
You got time.
Yeah. We have plenty of time. There's still a lot of wells to be drilled. Yeah.
See that water flowing in July.
Yeah. The good news is all the recharge is going to be by gravity. So no need for that power to be coming.
So is this the first
pilot study to get some data? That was 2016, 2017 timeframe. I think we did a pilot study. Mm-hmm. So we've put some water in, but this will be the first time that these new facilities are being used. Yeah.
Next one.
Metropolitan Water District's water. Yeah, it'll be their table A.
With all this big while lost up 100% allocation, we need to put as much water we can in these banks wherever we can.
Yeah.
In that 70,000 acre feet, or what was?
Over the course of 12-month period, we could do 70,000 acre feet. So being that we're starting, July 10th, we're a little bit into the year. So the current estimate is that we can put in about 96 or so acre feet per day out there, I think is right. 46 CFS, yeah, something like that.
Well, the problem is because we only have one west feeder. Because you could put it
at our west side water bank, right?
Right. You could put in two different banks. The problem is only so much water goes to the pipe.
Right. Yeah. Avek's west feeder pipeline to the west side water bank is currently maxed out. So we're putting all the water that we can put at our west side water bank right now. And then, yeah, you're right. Metropolitan will utilize their first priority capacity at the high desert water bank. So we don't think there'll be any additional capacity there for Avek to utilize our second priority rights to the project.
Are we putting as much water we can in the west side water bank?
Yes. Yep.
Right now?
Right now. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Doing all we can, huh, Pete? Yeah.
What about over out here on the east side?
Yeah. Yeah, we're maxing east side out. Yeah, Upper Amargosa. We're using Upper Amargosa right now. And I guess that's all of our facilities right now. Yeah.
Okay.
We're doing over 200 acre feet a day, I think, in total everywhere.
Good.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
At one time, there was artesian wells in the valley, and I've seen some of the pictures of them. So maybe we get enough recharge, we'll see it again.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to section 2. This is, you have a kind of an org chart, I guess, of our project and team. Avek there at the top, Metropolitan, Kennedy Jenks, Stantec, our contractors working on a couple aspects of the project there across the top. Recent program management activity, Kennedy Jenks is serving as our program manager on the project, and they're doing a good job of just kind of overall tracking of the project, making sure everybody's aware of their deadlines and when they need to deliver certain deliverables to us, and doing a good job of organizing some progress meetings and making sure that everybody's on track just in general. No upcoming board decisions at the moment. Like I said, when Metropolitan makes their decision, we'll be obviously coming back and amending that agreement. So that'll be something upcoming as well. Moving into engineering and field work, this is primarily Stantec's work that they're focusing on. We do have the contractors working out there, so when questions about the design come up, they're quick to answer those questions so that the contractors don't experience any delays. They're participating in our construction progress meeting so that they can answer the questions at that point in time as well. And they're currently working on the recovery well package right now and the well recovery pipeline package. They're working on that, and they've got some deliverables due to us towards the end of May, early June, where we'll have an opportunity to begin looking at how that design is progressing. But they're making good progress on that. And that's all there. Moving into contracts, we've seen this table before. This has just been updated with some recent payments. I guess I'll just point out kind of the construction progress here. We got Nicholas Construction down here at the bottom. You can see that we've paid them out about 33% of their total contract to date. Mouse isn't cooperating with me here. And then we've got Blois Construction. He's working on the turnout. They're about 60% or so, I guess, on there. And then you can see just total percentage of the contracts that have been paid as you go down that right-hand side column there. So everybody's doing a good job. Construction's progressing well. And Tian Ying, our construction manager, is on the line. He's going to go through some construction update slides. It's got some good photos in there, how the contractor is doing so far. This shows the account activity in our capital program account. So this account is funded by Metropolitan Water District, and then we use this account to pay the bills to the contractors and consultants working on the project. This has been updated through the end of April. And at the end of April, we had an account balance of about $1.2 million in that account. You can see at the very bottom there, there's some outstanding invoices to Metropolitan Water District as of today. There's 2 of them. It's about $2.2 million each. One of those is due in about a week, I guess, and the other one is due in early June. Metropolitan's been very good at paying this on time and making sure that we have those funds available, and we've been pretty good at effectively managing the capital program account, making sure that everybody's getting paid on time. And we'll get into section 7, which is construction, and I'm going to turn it over to Tian Ing with Kennedy Jenks, who's our construction manager, to go through these next few slides. Tian, go ahead.
Thank you, Justin. Good evening, directors. This evening, we have 2 construction projects to update. The first one being the Aqueduct Turnout Turn-In project. We listed out all the key facilities or key areas for this project, and the schedule that is showing there on screen is those areas being to be completed, meaning that that's the end date. So, for example, the turnout turn-in structure. The target is the contractor is going to finish it by June 9th, the control building May 12th, and so forth. The 84-inch steel pipe is completely done, waiting to do pipe tests. That's been scheduled for May 18th. Fiber optics starting tomorrow. The contractor is going to pull fiber, 7,000 feet of them, and it may take a week or 2 to finish it out. And then after that, they're going to connect that on both ends and test the signal. So that has a target of May 23. As soon as they finish, hopefully sooner than later, sometime in May, they'll be done on that, connected up. Next slide, please. We put a slide here starting in January because of the wet weather event, but in April, we didn't see any of them. So the contractor works on every day from Monday to Friday. Next slide, please. This photo here was taken 2 days before the committee meeting on April 27th. So this photo was taken on April 25th. But the site has changed. All the underground work, including those conduit that you see on the trenches, they're completed. Compacted up, slurry seal compacted up. This week, the contractor is working on pulling wires. All the sidewalk and also the gutter area around the metering vault and the control building was also completed yesterday. The key elements for the contractor to do is they still have those very heavy side gates, 2 of them that I will show on the second slide, to do starting this week, started yesterday. And also finish up the flow meter installation, test the pipe, and then they can close up the pit, which is showing at the very top end of the photo. Yep, thank you, Justin. Next slide, please. I show a photo of the slide gates. They're being very heavy. I believe they're more than 6,000 pounds per. During the committee meeting, I believe his director, Donato, made a suggestion that when you show a photo like that, please show where it goes. So we have a cut sections of the turnout turn-in facility, looking at the sectional, and the gate goes into where Justin is pointing, almost at the end of the structure, where the water is being squeezed in and gradually funneled down to that 84-inch pipe. And there's 2 sides of it, and that's where all those gates will be. And there's a stem riser extended out beyond the concrete deck, and it's motorly operated. So when the Avek operator goes in and open and close them, they don't have to hand crank them. It's motorized. Next slide. Yes.
I got a question. Yeah. So you're telling me that there's not enough solar power to open and close those gates?
We have solar power. I think we could test that. It might not. It might not. So
I think you just send a memo up to the governor and let him know that.
Good question.
So, real quick, excuse me, Tan, I just want to orient. I thought this was interesting, but this area here, just in case you're not familiar with these design details, this would be what we call a trash rack. And if I go back on this slide, that's this trash rack that's shown right here, the metal Sorry if that thing would go away for me, but these metal bars here. So that slide gate is going to be back underneath here in the photo.
Is there two gates because you don't have to open them up at both at the same time? Is that what it is?
Right, yeah, we could operate one or the other.
Okay, and what's the reason for that?
Provides a little bit of redundancy there. So we could close one side and work on one side and not close everything down, yeah.
But the pipe goes, when the water coming into the aqueduct goes in like a funnel, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's right. So yeah, this would be those trash racks extending under the water, and then those gates would be back here.
This slide here showing, this is in late April, where the contractor finished installing the fiber optics cable down to the DWR, what they call the Check 43 facility. And currently that it's completely completed, backfill. So we took this photo during the committee update meeting. Next slide, please. This is the what we call the connection point at the Check 43. As the fiber conduit coming up, there's a junction box, and it's actually core through the block building. All those activities were coordinated with the DWR inspector and their operations group. Next slide, please. For the second project, the stage 1 and stage 2 recharge system improvements, the schedule hasn't changed much here because it has a long duration. For example, Justin mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, the stage 1 pipeline is scheduled to be done by July 10th. So that means that the day off or the day after, it's available for recharge for stage 1. Stage 2 still got a ways to go. They continue to build the basins, 20 to 27. It's going to take them till, at least June of next year to complete that. However, the piping, once the contractor finished the stage 1 piping, they're going to concentrate on start building the stage 2 piping. And that currently that is scheduled from July 10th to April 1st of next year. Next slide, please. This slide here talking about rain impact, and there are none in April. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is showing stage 1 at the top of the berm. So a few months ago, they graded it to the top of the dirt. Now they have to put at least compacted 4 inches of aggregate base on top for protections. Next slide. Please, Justin. Oh, yeah. This is a shot of Avenue B. The contractor has pretty much installed all the big pipes, and there's this branch which is connected to the stage 1 along Avenue B. Those are the 40H, 42, and then 36-inch pipe. All the valve and the piping are on site. The contractor for the next few weeks are currently still backfilling the major pipe. As soon as that is done, they're going to start digging this trench area. It's a shorter branch and then a smaller pipe, so hopefully it will go quicker for these sections. Next slide, please. During the committee meeting, we also showed that last time, directors, when you folks visited the site, you see once in a while there's some yellow stem riser pipe, and then there's a big hole in it. Those are intended to be rise up and backfill to the finish. So photo on your left, that was probably those conditions that you folks saw when you visited the site. And currently, one by one, the contractor is working on raising it and fill up those holes and backfill them back to the desired finish grade elevation. Next slide. This is a slide of in late April, the contractor was just finishing the 84-inch, which is all the way up to Avenue A, I believe. But as of last Friday, they have completely welded the pipe Now they're working on slurry backfill and eventually compacted backfill. So they're moving very decent because recently there have not been any weather impact, so they can work to a maximum speed. Justin, I believe that is the last slide for this month's project update.
All right, thank you. Good job, Tien. Any questions for Tien before we move on?
Justin, I have one question. Since we're getting 100% entitlement, from the state, this year, and I know we've talked about, how much water we can recharge, but at some point, if we could maybe look at that and see, what's recharge and what we may have available.
Yeah, Metropolitan has first party right to the 70,000 acre feet. So I imagine they'll use all of that this year.
And how many acre feet?
70,000.
Yeah, they probably we wouldn't need any of Avek's water.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They've indicated that they're just like us. They're looking at places to try to put water. So they're very eager to meet that milestone. And I think Matt forwarded around a request to bank water with Avek to the directors. It was the week before last, I think we had that letter that we had received. And so, yeah, they're very eager to put some water in here. So we're excited to get it going. So.
Thank you.
Well, there are actually putting water in the ground because we're going to be 10% behind no matter what.
Yeah, that's true.
We're not going to pay for that either.
Right.
You talk about 10 years from now, you're talking a lot of water left in the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be good for the basin. All right. Thank you, Tien. Just 2 more slides, really not much. This item we just kind of reserved for other items. Really nothing at this time. And then our last slide is board action items, and there aren't any right now. So that concludes the monthly update for the High Desert Water Bank for this month, and I'd be happy to answer any final questions you might have.
Do we still have security out there?
That security patrol was for our West Side Water Bank, and I think they're still out there, right? Yeah.
Are they out there?
Yeah.
Okay. No problems? So far, so good?
Okay, thank you much.
All right, thank you.
If there's any questions from anybody listening in to,
I don't know. President Lane, before we move on, just would like to add, on top of what Justin expressed about excitement from Metropolitan Water District, Matt and I had a phone call with Metropolitan, and they're very eager to do a ribbon cutting ceremony. And as soon as we're able to put water in the ground, they really want to coordinate with our board and staff to make that happen. So you'll be hearing more about that over the coming weeks.
Good news. Thank you. Okay, Justin, thank you much, and that'll bring us down to new business. 8C1, consideration possible action regarding resolution announcing the vacancy of Division 1, and basically we have a resolution, but the important items, it lists a date when an appointment has to be made by. They would fill the unexpired term of the Division 1 vacancy. And I think we have a resolution in I'm gonna look at that page again.
Page 29. Actually, page 30.
Okay, yeah,
page
okay.
30.
Yeah, thank you. Got it. Yeah, thank you. And like I say, it would be for the term, the filling their term, it would expire. It would be an election November 5th, 2024. And the board intends to make a final decision no later than June 13th, 23. And so I think is a board order 8C1 regarding the resolution. So I think if there's any questions from staff or attorney, but I think it's fairly self-explanatory at this point. So a motion would be in order if there's no further questions.
Mr. President, this is Keith. I'll make a motion. We approve the order.
Director Dias, we have a motion.
I will second it.
Director Donato, we have a second. If there's no further questions or discussion, Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Keith Dias,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yeah,
George Lane.
Yes. Motion carried.
I'd like to comment on this too. So George appointed me chairman. George is on the committee, and so is Gary, correct?
Yeah.
We got three of us. Okay, this is a public committee. I mean, it's a standing committee until the person gets appointed. Okay, because it's a board order. So when applications come in, they cannot go to the board. They have to go to Holly, and then Holly will turn them in to us, three of us. Okay, and then we look them over, and then we bring what we think should come to the board. There's 20 applicants. We're gonna kind of, go through that, and then we'll decide what we're gonna bring to the board. But if people come walking in here or email us as directors, if a fourth person gets it, it is now a violation of the Brown Act. Because now we don't have a committee anymore, it becomes a board issue. So we have to be very careful with that. And I'd like our attorney to comment on that, please.
So, Director Donato, basically, I think you're correct. As I understand it, we have that committee formed, and the application, as I understand it, one application has been submitted, and as I understand it, that application was circulated to all board members, but through a BCC, so no board member knew that other board members got that application. But as I understand it, there's been no communications by any board member with each other or any members of the committee regarding the application. So, right now, I think the Brown Act issue is not much of an issue, but with the directive that you have stated, that makes it pretty crystal clear that we will not run into any Brown Act issues.
Yeah, going forward, we can't let that happen.
Correct.
Okay, I want to hear your opinion. Okay, I just want to make sure, because all of us here on the board do know people out there, and they're friends of ours and whatever, but if we have everybody in the world, pulling the board, it can become an issue. And I just want to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, so on a going forward basis, if there are any more applications, then they will be funneled to Holly, and Holly will circulate them only to the committee members.
Thank you.
Okay, it's going to be a pretty fast track. We have just a little bit more than a month that decision we made. Okay, moving on to, thank you. Moving on to item 8C2, is consideration of a possible consulting track with the previous manager, Dwayne Chisholm, and it's in front of the board members, and this contract's for a limited amount of time and for limited services. And that's something that there's a few pages to it, and I think everybody's had a chance to look at it. It amounts to a maximum of $5,000 per month, $150 per hour, and it has to be directed basically by a manager, Matt, right there, what work and when it's done.
I have a question on this. Who determines that he's a consultant to us?
If it's a what, right?
Who determines, in staff or the board, whoever, that he is now, after we approve this board order, that he controls his hours and his time and what the item, so this item is only specifically for right now, today, CV Communities, is that correct?
That's correct.
And as needed is what's written in there.
But only for CV Communities.
That's the only listed.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I'm trying to get a better understanding. Okay.
And it's going to be.
I'm going to say is that it's not going to JPIA. It's not going to all these no other events, just strictly this one item, right?
And as directed by our general manager, Matt.
Okay.
Matt, are you on?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Director Lane. So, yeah, I was listening to the conversation, and everybody's correct that the agreement presented tonight was intended to help the agency, if needed, to complete the CV litigation. Just because Mr. Chisholm has the history on that arrangement with CV, so it's written to focus on assistance with that matter, and then based on the hourly rate and the general manager myself, I would control the time and effort with Dwayne Chisholm.
Thank you. That was exactly what I wanted to hear. I'll move up.
Yeah, and this is Tilden Kim, and so there are built-in mechanisms in the agreement. So for example, the authorizations for Mr. Chisholm to work under this contract and the scope of it has to be through express written direction from the general manager, and also to make sure that there isn't any scope creep, so to speak. There is a requirement for submission of monthly invoices, so there's a periodic, a very frequent periodic overview of what's being, the work that's being done and the scope of it to make sure that it's within the authorization and within the terms of the contract.
So it'll be itemized just like the way you do our bill, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
We're all on the same page.
I had one question. It maxes out at 5,000 a month?
The maximum.
Max, okay. And he'll be on Zoom then, or will he be in live when we meet with CB, or whatever Matt needs?
Yeah, Gary, I think a lot of that will be, phone communication and email work. But if we do need to bring him in for sit-down meetings as we work through that, then obviously he would have to come to the office. But
we old cars, Matt.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you. If the board's comfortable with this resolution or regarding this contract, a motion be in order.
Yeah, this Director Nato, I move like this 8C2 to consider possible consulting services of Dwayne Chisholm, through our general manager, Matt Listen.
I'll second that motion.
Second by Director Van Dam. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call. Okay.
Gary Van Dam?
Yes.
Audrey Miller?
Yes.
Keith Dias?
Yes.
Frank Donato?
Yes.
George Lane?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, that brings us down towards the end of the agenda. That brings us to item number 9, General Manager's Report. Pete, are you going to be giving that?
I will be giving that, yes.
Okay. Our Assistant General Manager will be giving that report.
All right. Thank you, President Lane. So Tom put these slides together for us just to show that there is some temperature swings anticipated, kind of indicative of El Nino. So you see that the hot weather, it is going to be overall cool. You'll see on average for the month, but we're going to see these hot swings come through. And we anticipate that with the El Nino, as we move into this next year, we'll see warmer, wetter weather and less snowpack next year. And this is a precipitation outlook. So it shows a lot of green. I just want to put that in perspective that May is a typically low precipitation month for California. So even though it's above average, it doesn't mean we'll have significant rain, but it will be above typical. And that is more indicative of moving into that El Nino cycle. And just want to point out, that's San Luis Reservoir, completely topped off at that full mark right there. And that it's a good news for the State Water Project. That's good news for us, and it leads into our next slide, which covers. Let's see. There we go. Covers our allocation. So we got that 100% allocation. We haven't seen that since 2006. I personally didn't think we were ever going to see it again, but we are. In the midst of that Article 21 program. But because San Luis is full, because they actually have to slow the pumps down in the Delta that would pump water into the aqueduct and into San Luis, they're making available extra water through the Article 21 program, and Avek is making maximum use of that. So currently, we're taking 2,000 acre feet per week. That is anticipated to continue. That program is going to continue through June. There's potential for it to pick back up again in fall. Right now, we're estimating that we'll take about 22,000 acre feet of Article 21 water, so that will stack on top of our 100% allocation of Table A. And to date, we've delivered 13,000 acre feet. So it's been a very productive year, and we're, as Justin mentioned earlier, we're maximizing our banks and our storage. And along that note, I'd just like to add the other thing that you will be seeing soon is some terms for utilizing Little Rock Creek's turnout to put in additional recharge into the ground. So that will be coming forward and will ultimately culminate in a potential agreement that will be approved at the association for use of Little Rock's turnout to capture more water. All right, and this is good news. So every time we update this, the water keeps going up. What I would really like to draw attention to is that bottom line there, the surplus. So now we're looking at a potential surplus of 35,000 to 43,500 acre feet. We're looking at a few different options for dealing with that surplus. The first option is we could increase our amount of carryover in San Luis. That comes with some risk. So the more that we have in there, the more we potentially could lose if it spills later in the year. We're also looking at exchanges. Some of those exchanges could be for dry year water. So they'd be unbalanced exchanges where we would give more, but we would get a guaranteed return back in dry years. We're also looking at potential exchanges and partners where we could turn over State Water Project water to agricultural interests that also own groundwater in the Antelope Valley and essentially do some swaps through exchanges and increase our groundwater yield in the Antelope Valley. And finally, the last thing that we're considering is some transfers that would be essentially sales of water, of that surplus water. Although in this year with the glut of water that's on the market, it's a little hard to find a buyer for the surplus water. So we're really keying in on those exchanges as ways to buoy up Avek's supply in future years, whether it be the dry year programs or the exchanges for local groundwater. And happy to answer any questions you might have on that.
Speaking of exchanges on Tajon, did we ever replace that water that we borrowed from them or exchanged with them?
I'm not aware of that exchange. I don't know if anyone else in the room is.
Yeah, maybe that one's for Matt, but.
Yeah.
No, we had one.
What's that?
It was over 10 years. I think we.
Right, but I thought.
We gave it back.
Right, I thought, yeah, it would be a good time to go ahead and.
Yeah, Director Van Dam, this is Matt. So, yeah, all the previous exchange obligations with Tajon Ranch have been fulfilled. So we currently don't owe them anything back.
Good.
Yeah. And if I could just add, Pete did a great job explaining where we're at with the water supply, and he mentioned the various options we're looking at presenting to the board. And obviously, before we do anything with those, we'll we'll bring those through the committee and back to the board for final approval. We're just now kind of going through the process and looking at all of our options.
Okay,
I have a question. It costs us to bring that water here about $225, $250 an acre foot to get it down here. The question I have is, if farmers are on the aqueduct directly and have their own turnouts, why can't we sell that water to them for $300 or $275 an acre foot, whatever, somewhere in that ballpark, versus them pumping groundwater? Wouldn't there be a benefit to do that? Or I don't know.
I'll be happy to take that question, Director Donato. Currently, because of the enormous snowpack in the central Sierras, the Kern River is flowing so heavily that most of those Central Valley farmers have access to Kern River water.
No. Okay. I meant the Antelope Valley.
Oh, in the Antelope Valley.
Farmers. I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
No. It's the Antelope Valley farmers. I mean, it wouldn't cost us. It doesn't cost us any money, does it? If they pull it directly out of the aqueduct, they're not using the water anyway. Wouldn't that be in lieu of recharge? I don't know. That's my question.
Are you speaking of direct deliveries to the farmers, to their fields? Is that?
I mean, this is 1 year, but I don't know. It's just something.
That's a concept, good concept. I think that's something that needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
Get rid of water and then AVAC could make a profit on it. You know, it's not like they're losing money at, I thought it was about $200 an acre foot.
I have no idea.
It changes, you know, depending on the power
I think
rates.
farmers would buy it.
Yeah, well, especially right now. I mean, when you look at hay at $350 a ton, it's a whole new number.
They can return flows on that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. And you know, one challenge with that is we're currently maximizing the capacity of the West feeder for delivery of State Water Project to recharge basins. So there's not any excess capacity available for this concept. Now, if we delivered it through other turnouts or other locations, that could be feasible.
Well,
but
I threw up the question. I just thought, I'd rather have the farmers have the water than have the ocean have the water. And if there's a way to do that to lower the pumping in the Antelope Valley, the people that, if it can be done, they would get return flows out of that. And the incentive for them not to pump. So, I mean, we're not going to have this every year. I mean, it'd be nice we have it every year, but we're not. So I just thought maybe there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, we can look at options.
Let's step. Look at it.
Sounds good.
What about Lake Elizabeth, Lake Hughes area? They seem really low still.
Perfect example right there. Lake Elizabeth, fill it up. They buy it from us, because it comes directly out of the aqueduct.
Right.
Yeah. Was that Director Miller that asked that question? Yeah. So this is Matt. So I mentioned to the Finance Committee, but mentioned it to the full board. I did have a meeting with representatives that are working for Lake Elizabeth, and they are kind of looking at the potential for buying AVAC water or State Water Project water for delivery to Lake Elizabeth to kind of top that lake off. It's been coming up naturally, so we're waiting for that official proposal. But we can talk about the cost of that once we get that proposal.
I like that, Matt. And then the other thing is, while we're talking about it, have them clean up the banks out there, all that dead debris and everything that's sitting there, could be cleaned up. That could be.
Along the shoreline.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Peter, you're still
a couple more slides and we'll wrap you guys up. So here we go. We have an agency activity update. So the work on 60th Street and L12 is continuing, and they're planning for that line stop next week. And then there's going to be a shut off for the Leona Valley customers coming up on May 12th. But I'd like to, if you have any questions, I would defer to John Bazigian on those.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Moving on.
All right, just wanted to give you an update that staff was invited for Earth Day at NASA, and we sent Tom and Pam, and they were able to. They had a booth and discussed state water project, water supply, storage, and water quality, and all of our current projects that are ongoing. And it was very well received. They had a lot of attention at their booth, and we just wanted to let you know of their activity out there.
Where was this at?
At NASA.
What, here, 142?
No, out at Edwards Air Force.
Okay.
Yeah. Then upcoming events. So we have the Aqua Spring Conference that's actually going on now that Matt is beaming to us from, and that I'll be driving to as soon as this board meeting's over. And then the AV Water Master meeting on the 24th. And
Okay.
Yep.
That
concludes my report.
Okay, thank you much, Peter. That'll bring us down to item number 10. If there's director's reports, if there's anything. Number 11, our attorney report, is there anything this time?
Nothing to report presently.
Okay. If there's any request for future agenda items, you do it now or later. Is there any reason to go into closed session?
There's not.
Okay, that brings us down to an adjournment to the May 23rd at 5:30. Motion would be in order.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Director Van Dam,
I'll second.
Director Miller. Madam Secretary?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller, Keith Dias,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes, carried. Thank you, everyone.